Okay, today we're going to start using quadratics to find area, right? Area, and actually there's going to be another one too. It's called consecutive numbers, and so this is going to be twofold. So finding area and then also finding consecutive numbers. So make sure you're watching the whole thing here for this assignment. Okay, so area, just remember that area is length times width, right? So we have everything that we want here. We have to go find out what x is here. So if the area is 78 and the length and the width are these two, so that we just substitute this in here. Now, some of you always like the equal sign on this side. So remember that length times width is equal to area. Doesn't matter. Let's use this one over here. So we're going to take this x and x plus 7. So x times x plus 7. Remember, it doesn't matter which one it is. And area is 78. All right? So length or width, it doesn't matter which one. It's just side times side, right? Basically. All right, so here we just do our regular math. We take the x and we distribute. So we get x squared plus the 7x is equal to 78. Then we have to get one side equal to 0, so we subtract 78 from both sides, and we're going to get x squared plus 7x minus the 78 is equal to 0. All right? So now this is where it gets a little tricky, and we have to figure out 78, right? 78. So what are we talking about? 78 divided by 2, no, 3 maybe, right? 3 goes into 78, but that's too much. That doesn't give me 7. How about 4? No. 5, no. 6. How about 6? I like 6, right? 78, 6. 6 goes into 7 once. 18, 3. 13 minus 6 is 7. There we go. So 13 and 6. Perfect. So we say x plus 13 and x minus 6 equals 0. Awesome, right? So notice how I have to figure this out. Sometimes it's just, kind of a little bit more of a challenge to figure these two numbers out. All right, so now we have to remember we're going to set one of these or both of these equal to 0. So we say x plus 13 is equal to 0 and x minus 6 is equal to 0. Well, this is x equals negative 13 and this is x equals 6. Uh-oh, we got two choices here. And so are we done here? Does this make sense? That's the question you have to ask. Does this make sense? So if x is negative 13, right, then that means this side is negative 13 and this side is negative 6. So let me ask you, have you ever measured anything negative-wise? No, we don't. Measurements cannot be negative, right? So this one we say doesn't work. This is a non-solution here. We cannot use negative 13 because we don't get to measure that. So let's look at 6. If I have 6 here and I have 6 plus 7 is 13, so 6 times 13 is the 78. So the solution to this is x equals 6. That's it. So if we're finding what the value of x is, then we're going to say that x is 6, not this negative 13. We cannot use negative 13. So make sure you always check your answers, because not both of them are going to work. All right? Okay, what about a word problem? This is a diagram. They're going to do this. So what about a word problem? So if I have this word problem here and say that the length of a rectangle garden is 4 meters longer than the width, right? The area of the rectangle is 60 meters, so find the dimensions, right? So make sure that you understand that we would draw a diagram. I would always draw a diagram. So if I have a rectangle, so I'm just going to draw a rectangle, right? The width is x and the length is 4 meters longer. Longer means addition, right? So this is x plus 4, and the whole thing is 60, right? Meters squared. So that's what it means. And so make sure that we get this. All right, so here we go. So remember that length times width is equal to the area. So we're going to say x times x plus 4 is equal to 60. And then here we go. We do our math, right? We do our distribution here. We distribute. So this is x squared plus the 4x is equal to 60. We subtract 60, and we're going to get x squared plus the 4x minus the 60 is equal to 0. All right, so talk to me. What two numbers do you multiply to get negative 60? That up to 4, right? So that would be what, 6 and 10, right? So that means we're going to say x plus 10, x minus 6 equals 0. Because again, you want the bigger of the two to be positive because it's plus 4. 10 minus 6 is positive 4, and 10 times negative 6 is negative 60. So again, we're going to set these equal to 0. So this would be x equals negative 10. And then we're going to say x minus 6 is equal to 0. And we're going to get x equal to 6, right? So again, here we go. We have to take these two numbers and plug them in. Can we have a negative number or negative length, negative measurement? We can't have a negative measurement, so this one gets thrown out. So the answer is 6. So this would be 6 meters, and this would be 10 meters. That's the answers if they want the dimensions. So we would say it maybe the other way you could say it is a 6 by 10, right? That would be another way to say it. All right, so notice that we do the same thing here on both of these. We actually get the same answer, kind of coincidence there, no big deal. It's not always going to be 6, hint, hint, but you're going to do the same type of thing here, right? You're always going to do the factoring and then see which one makes sense. You're always going to plug it in. All right, let's take a look at consecutive numbers. Consecutive means that you're going to have them right next to each other, right? So we call them consecutive integers, because remember, they could be positive or they could be negative. Integers are going to be no decimals, but they can be positive or negative, but no decimals. All right, so consecutive would be like 5 and 6. Those could be consecutive, right? -7 and -8. Those could be consecutive. We could also have consecutive positive. These are positive, and consecutive negative, and and then we can also have consecutive odd, right? Or consecutive even. And these are, you're going to have to make sure you have to understand. So for it to be even or odd, the first one will be x, and the second one will be x plus 2, right? Think about that. If we had odds, we would have 5 and 7. So we would have to add 2 to 5 to get to 7, right? Does that make sense? So that means that's why it's always x plus 2. This is important here, right? Up here, a consecutive number would be x and then x plus 1, right? That's what it'd be, or x minus 1, or whatever, if it's negatives. Actually, it would be x plus 1. So notice that we would add 1 here to get to the 6. We would add 1 here to get to the -7, right? So the consecutive integers are x and x plus 1. Whenever they throw in the words odd or even, again, 6 and 8, remember, we're going to add 2 here, and we're going to get 8, so it doesn't matter. So this is the first one, and this is the second one. These are two things that you're going to have to remember when they ask us, and then you have to read the question to see. All right, so if we want 2 positive consecutive integers that are two positive consecutive integers, right, whose product is 56. Product means multiplication. So 2 consecutive right here. So these are it, 2 consecutive. So whose product is 56. So we're going to take this information, the 2 positive consecutive integers are x and x plus 1, right? Those are the 2, and we want to multiply together to come up with 56. All right, so we're going to say x times x plus 1 is equal to 56. And then guess what? This is exactly what we've been doing. We're going to distribute, and then we're going to move the 56 over. So notice that the same pattern is happening here, all right, through all of this with quadratics. We're always going to have, you have to have an x squared for it to be quadratic, and then most of the time you're going to have an x term and you're going to have a constant term. So we're going to subtract 56 on both sides. We're going to get x squared plus x minus the 56 equals 0. So two numbers that multiply to give me negative 56 that add up to positive 1 are x plus 8 and x minus 7. Because 8 minus 7 is 1 and 8 times negative 7 is negative 56. We set these equal to 0, and we're going to get x equals negative 8. And we're going to have x minus 7 equals 0, and we get x equals 7, right? So then it says they want the positive ones. Well, this is negative 8, so we don't want this one, we want this one. So notice that x is 7, so go back up here. So if x is 7, x plus 1 is equal to 8. So here's our answers, 7 and 8. Pretty sweet, all right? So if they say they want consecutive odd or consecutive even, then you're going to have to use these two numbers or two things to get you help here. So make sure you look for that. If they ask you for 3, right? So let's think about that. If this is the first one, right? This is the second one. If they ask you for a third one, that would just be x plus 2, right? Because we could have 7, 8, 9, or something like that. And down here, if this is the first one, and this is the second one, then the third one would be x plus 4, right? Because again, if I had a third one over here, if this was 10, I'd have to add 4 to this. 6 plus 10, or plus 4 is 10. So here is, if they ask you for 2 consecutive, then you use these two. If they ask you for 3 consecutive, odd or even, then you're going to use all 3 of these. Same with this up here. All right, so make sure that you're always just looking to go back and look at these videos for you. All right, keep having some fun.